Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, I was the acting chief of staff and the senior most appointee from the Biden administration at NASA for the first 100 days of the administration. I am excited to be here, absolutely honored to be the keynote speaker at the spring meeting of the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium. I would like to spend a few minutes this morning talking about why the moon is an important element of our nation's human spaceflight program. If you would permit me that. I guess let's just level set first. Ever since the end of the Apollo program, sending humans to Mars has been the horizon goal for the space community. However, the debate is no longer whether we go to the moon or whether we go to Mars, but rather how we ensure that our presence on the moon and in cislunar space will prepare us for a human Mars mission. I'm gratified, obviously, that the Biden-Harris administration has thrown its support behind the Artemis program and fully intends to maintain its continuity of purpose and direction. And thank you to so many of you who reached out to your your leaders and talked about the importance of this. I believe that the moon is a critical proving ground to enable our Mars ambitions. And I guess if you were to be okay with that, I'd like to talk to you about 5 reasons why we need to continue to emphasize cislunar and surface activities on the moon, even as we keep our eyes on Mars. So with that said, the first reason why we think we need to focus on the moon is the moon is where we will be developing and testing necessary technology to enable actually not just missions to Mars, but also deep space science and exploration. In order for us to have sustainable presence on Mars, or even if it's an Apollo-style flags and footprint opposition class mission to Mars in the 2030s, we need for humans to practice being away from Earth for extended periods. And we are looking, even with nuclear propulsion, we are looking at 2 years or longer. This will require that technology that goes beyond what we have developed from the space shuttle and the ISS gets developed. And again, I won't have a comprehensive list, but it includes things like effective ways to manage long duration exposure of astronauts to damaging solar and galactic cosmic radiation. It includes the ability to use in situ resources, whether it's soil, atmosphere, water, for making propellants and ingredients for life support. It includes systems for generating, storing, and distributing power on other planetary surfaces. The systems and technologies that will enable opportunities to answer fundamental planetary science questions on the lunar surface will feed forward directly to similar investigations on Mars. These systems cannot be tested and demonstrated on the ISS or in low Earth orbit. They must be tested and demonstrated in cislunar space or on the lunar surface before they could be used in a crewed mission to Mars. So that's the first reason. The second one, and it's actually an important priority of the Biden-Harris administration, which is prospects to rebuild old and create new global alliances. Crewed lunar programs are of interest not only to traditional US allies in Europe and Japan, but also emerging spacefaring countries like UAE, Australia, and India, among others. And joint lunar activities on the surface of the moon, for example, and there's many different illustrations of that. The International Space Exploration Coordination Group has some ideas on that. They provide high-profile diplomatic opportunities, which again, as I said, is an important priority of the Biden administration. And given Chinese plans for attracting international partners for their lunar activities, it may be critical for the United States to lead the world on civil, scientific, and commercial activities within the Earth-Moon system. So that's a diplomatic piece. The third one is a commercial piece, right? A third important reason to keep our eyes on the moon is that, and actually moon and rather than Mars, is that it has the prospects for commercial engagement. There is interest and technical capability in the private sector for co-funding transportation and potential activities in cislunar space and on the moon. And honestly, I have been looking at this area for the last at least 10 years. I have not seen any corresponding interest in co-investing for Mars, mainly because it is not seen as having any commercial opportunities in the near term. Um, there's no customers on the Mars that are not governments, and in fact, potentially just the U.S. government. Commercial participation on the moon could reduce the burden on the government of developing all deep space capabilities, promote greater innovation in the high-tech sector, create new job opportunities, and keep STEM interest high. And again, we see that when we have any sorts of even robotic landings on the moon, how much excitement that generates in the commercial community. By using commercial approaches to meet NASA's goals in deep space, the Biden administration can continue to build on its success in developing commercial options that reduce the taxpayer cost to transport crew to the International Space Station. The fourth reason to kind of focus on the moon is that the moon provides the ability to showcase to the American taxpayer and the global community achievable targets in the near term. Getting American astronauts safely to and landing on Mars will be expensive and time-consuming. Crewed missions to the lunar surface are clearly possible in this decade, whereas crewed missions to Mars are not. Given other priorities, both within and outside NASA, human spaceflight budgets are not likely to be commensurate with the requirements of a Mars mission. Planning just a mission to Mars, therefore, means that NASA will move forward slowly, as it should. These are hard things, and safety is important, and have limited ways to show progress that would be exciting and inspiring to the nation and the world. This, of course, has soft power, national security, and competitiveness implications. Bottom line, using the moon to prepare for a mission to Mars provides the opportunity to showcase near-term accomplishments in the space program. And last but not least, this is growing in importance, national security implications. And this is an area I have been emphasizing both to the White House and congressional committees since I came to NASA back in January. The first country to establish regular crewed operations in deep space or another planetary body will be the dominant voice in determining a wide array of space norms and standards. These norms and standards will likely apply to all future deep space activities, including national defense, exploration of planetary bodies, including asteroids and Mars. The first nation to operate regular crewed missions on the moon will set the norms and standards that other nations will be pressured to follow, whether it's on the lunar South Pole or any other part of the moon. In my view, if the United States does not return to the lunar surface significantly before China does, we will not be in a position to lead via international partnerships and establishing norms and standards of behavior in deep space that are aligned with US and democratic values. China may be able to land on the moon in this decade and is already increasing its cislunar presence. China would be happy to craft the rules and norms of deep space with Russian participation, as we have recently heard. And many countries in the world, including our European partners, would be eager to work with the Chinese as its plans unfold. The United States going back to the moon as part of the Artemis program, along with the associated Artemis Accords with our international partners, will improve US efforts to counter China's coercive influence in cislunar space as China tries to cast and recast international rules, norms, standards, and institutions. So those are kind of my 5 reasons for why we need to have sustained cislunar presence. And over the last year, NASA's plans for the moon have become firmer. Internally within NASA, we are completing a study on a review of the Artemis program. In particular, we are crystallizing when the first landing on the moon might occur, given congressional appropriations the last many years and expected appropriations in the coming years. The goal of this review, and you may have heard about it, is to evaluate the current Artemis program, budget, timeline, and develop high-level plans that include content. What are we going to do when we are on the moon? Schedule, and obviously we are looking at different budget scenarios. The team was instructed to develop all of this using 2 complementary goals. The first one is using activities on the moon and in cislunar space to prepare for a human mission to Mars. And the second one is our broader national security, global diplomacy goal, recognizing other nations' aspirations on the moon, We absolutely cannot cede our global leadership in space to other nations. I hope we will be able to share our findings as soon as the report is completed. In the meantime, I hope you all will harness the creativity, the energy, the resources of the nation to help keep NASA, to help keep the United States at the forefront of lunar exploration. Those were kind of the thoughts I had, and I look forward to a successful conference. I wish you all really great discussions, and I'm happy to take questions that I can answer.
Okay. Am I back on?
We can hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so if folks would like to ask questions, we have, you can ask them through the Q&A panel. It looks like actually Clive Neal put one in the chat, which I will read now as people start to interface with the Q&A panel. So Clive Neal says, thanks for your talk, Bhavya. You talk about a sustained cislunar presence, but what does this mean, and how do you see it being achieved when there is a lot of focus in talking about the moon as a step to go to Mars? Sorry.
Thanks, Clive. I'm not sure who you're talking to at HQ, but the only activity on this at HQ that we are working through is the Artemis review team I just mentioned, and the review team was given 2 goals. Obviously, moon as a stepping stone to Mars is a critical goal, but also a global leadership goal is a critical goal. We need to be on the moon in a sustained way as soon as it is reasonably feasible, given congressional allocations. So I don't think it is correct at all that the moon is only about going to Mars. And we can maybe chat offline about what you may be hearing.
All right. There's a question about lunar landers and roving strategies. Is there anything you can talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of my answers today, unfortunately, will be, so this was an assignment given to the Artemis review team. What is the content of our Artemis program? What is it that we are doing and why? And I know that they are working on it, and obviously there's budget limits that affect that, right? I mean, I don't think NASA gets to independently decide, what and how it does things. So hopefully the study would be completed soon, and we will be able to share our results, because one of the things they have been specifically instructed to look at is the content of what we do on the moon, and pressurized and unpressurized rovers, HABs, ISRU, all of those are part of the assignment.
And actually that follows into another question here, which is whether there's a target date for the release of the Artemis review report.
There isn't. It is not complete yet, I can tell you. Hopefully in the next few weeks it would be completed and reviewed, and we will make sure to have it come out as soon as it's possible.
Okay, here's another good one in the question and answer. So, Dr. Lal, you said that the U.S. should not cede its leadership in setting space norms and practices. I understand your general point as a policy matter. Do you see specific technologies or ways of engaging the U.S. research community that will secure the U.S. leadership? That's a very important one for us with LSIC, since our focus is on trying to develop the technologies to lead to building up the infrastructure and a sustained presence.
I think this one would be one area where we would look to the community to make sure that we have, we are focusing on those cutting edge technologies that keep us at the forefront, not just of the technology, but our overall presence in deep space. So yeah, absolutely, we need to make sure that we do that, and we need, and maybe the consortiums like LSIC and conferences like this one are the main ways for us to both as a community discuss what are those areas and make sure that NASA and other entities have the input One point I wanted to make is, it used to be that governments were the main drivers of progress in space, but with such an extraordinary rise of the commercial space sector, NASA is becoming more and more a partner, and we need to listen more to the commercial sector, to the broader space community, to make sure that we have all the best ideas. And again, I mean, it's not just even commercial. Our international partners are a pretty important part of the picture as well. We want to make sure that we listen to our partners in Europe and Japan and the rest of the world.
And actually, that feeds exactly into one of the next questions. What is the thinking about how international participation can happen with Artemis? Is it only going to be via other space agencies interacting with NASA, or is there an opportunity for foreign companies to interact with NASA directly?
Okay, so this is where I'm limited by my knowledge. I don't know how NASA works with international private companies. Yeah, I can get back to you on that one. I do not know what the rules there are, and I'm sure there's some rules around CFIUS or export controls or something that play into the answer that I might give.
Okay. Well, and one thing that from the perspective of LSIC, we welcome participation from countries across the globe. So one of the things that we can do as a community is really build up the networks and enable the companies to work with one another, at least. And so, if it doesn't, I understand, like when you get up to the NASA level and the government level, there's all kinds of political concerns and whatnot, but we may be able to sort of foster some of that interaction and technical exchange at a different level without.
Well, yeah, and also, you could be partnering with the U.S. industry as well, right? So it's both of that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we are coming close to the end of our time here. Do you want to take one more, or shall we? I think if Jim is ready to go, we may move on to Jim Ryder. Thank you so much for joining us, for your time and for your efforts, and for reiterating that as we all know in this community, as we all know and love the moon, that this is an important target in its own right for so many things, from understanding how humans can live off planet to amazing science and amazing technical developments that are going to feed into all kinds of things from discoveries to technical developments and everything else. So, all right, I do see Jim here.
Thanks, everybody.
So thank you again very much. All right.
Bye, everyone. Have a great conference.
All right, thank you so much.